In Modern, one of the oldest archetypes is Jund, but in the current times it has been struggling to keep up with the current metagame. When looking at the Jund list that we're going to be playing today, there are some weird cards, but the two key additions to the deck are Waste Not and Phyrexian Obliterator. Waste Not is a 2-mana enchantment that says whenever an opponent discards a creature card, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Whenever an opponent discards a land, add 2 black mana. And whenever an opponent discards a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card. This alongside all of our discard spells like Raven's Crime, Thoughtseize, and Wrenchmine means our traditional 1-for-1 discard spells become 2-for-1s. And Phyrexian Obliterator is a 4-mana 5/5 trample that says whenever a source deals damage to Phyrexian Obliterator, that source's controller sacrifices that many permanents. We are playing this because it's a hard to deal with creature. These days, most people are playing damage-based removal like Fury, Unholy Heat, and Renin 6. Not only can 2 of those not kill Obliterator, if an opponent ends up having to deal with it that way, they will sacrifice at least 5 permanents. And when looking at the rest of this list, it is playing powerful mid-range cards like Renin 6, Liliana, and Ragavan. So we're going to be taking this Waste Not Jund build through a league of Modern. Match when we're on the play and hand looks pretty good. We'll lead on turn 1 Stomping Ground into a Ragavan. Opponent goes Plains, Ornithopter, and a Springleaf Drum into another Springleaf Drum. The Seiju and Lily look quite good. Oh my god, Obliterator, amazing. Finding a Stoneforge. I think we'll go Swamp into a Lily. We'll tick up, discard a Wrenchmine. An opponent discard a Stoneforge. Opponent plays a Horizon Canopy into a Stoneforge Mystic, grabbing a Cauldron Complete. We top deck a Rin. We'll lead on an attack with Ragavan. Ragavan connects, finding a Sentinel. We'll Beseiju the Ornithopter, edict the opponent with Lily, shock in a Tomb, and tick up with our Rin, picking up this Beseiju. Opponent sacrifice Canopy and scoops it up. Let's get on to sideboarding. We're going to take out all of our Wrenchmine and Lilianas for Torok, 2 Alpine Moon, 2 Ancient Grudge, 2 EEs, and a Crime Punishment. Game 2, we have another amazing hand. Opponent leads on turn 1, Esper Sentinel. We top deck a Swamp, we'll go Cliffs into a Ragavan. Opponent goes Canopy into a Sanctifier. We top deck a Raven's Crime. We'll just play a Swamp into a Raven's Crime, and we'll pay for the Esper Sentinel. And they discard a Surge of Salvation. Opponent attacks in for 2, no blocks. Then cast out a Stoneforge, picking up a Cauldron Complete. We top deck another EE. We'll attack in with Ragavan, and they trade off with a Sentinel. We'll play out our Mountain into an EE on 2. Opponent plays another Canopy, activates Stoneforge, putting in a Cauldron. They attack us, and we're down to 11. Draw Beseiju. We'll pop the EE, killing Stoneforge and Sanctifier. We'll play a Verdant and pass back. Opponent plays out another Mystic, and they pick up a Shadow Spear. They attack us for 5. We're down to 6. And we find another land, and we just can't beat the board, so we'll get on to game 3. Game 3, we're going to bring in 3 Lilies for our Phyrexian Obliterators. Game 3, our hand's a little slow, but we're going to keep. We'll lead on turn 1 Cliffs into a Crime. An opponent discards a Stoneforge. Opponent leads on a Canopy into an Aid. Ooh, we top deck a Witherbloom command. We'll shock in a Tomb and cast a Crime. Discard an Verdant. And they discard another Mystic. We'll Crime them again, discarding a Bloodstained Mire. And they discard a Pithy Needle. And it plays out a Springleaf Drum and passes back. Oh, we top deck a Grudge. So we're going to cast a Witherbloom command, milling us and destroying the Sigarda's Aid. We'll pick up a Blackleaf Cliffs, play out for turn and pass back. Opponent plays out another Aid. We top deck a Waste Not. We'll play Waste Not and Raven's Crime the opponent. They discard a Surge and we draw a card. Finding an Alpine Moon. Nothing from the opponent. We top deck a Witherbloom. We'll mill us and destroy their Sigarda's Aid, picking up a Verdant, and we'll Raven's Crime them again, discarding the Verdant. An opponent discards a Pure Steel, and we get a 2/2. Opponent plays an Ink Moth into a Stoneforge, and they pick up a Hammer and then cast out an Aid. And we top deck a Thoughtseize. We'll fire that off, taking the Hammer and drawing a card off of Waste Not, and we'll attack in and hold up Grudge. Opponent sacks their Canopy, plays a Plains into a Pure Steel, and on the end step, we'll fire off a Grudge on the Springleaf Drum. We draw another command for turn. We'll cast that, destroying the Aid and milling 3. And we'll pick up a Nurturing Peatland, playing that for turn, and attacking in for 2. Opponent attacks in for 3. We're down to 13. And then they cast out a Stoneforge, picking up a Colossus Hammer. And we find a Raven's Crime. We'll use that to make them discard the Colossus Hammer. And we draw another Crime off of the Waste Not, and we'll attack in for 2. Then we'll pass back. Opponent goes to combat, takes us down to 9, and passes back. We draw Swamp for turn. We'll cast a Crime on the opponent, and they discard a Paladin, giving us another zombie. We'll attack in for 2. Opponent's down to 8, and then we'll run out an EE on 2, and blow it up now to play around a Surge. Opponent plays out a Sentinel for turn. We draw a Blackleaf Cliffs. We'll cycle our Peatland, drawing a Thoughtseize, play Cliffs for turn, and attack in for 4. And opponent's down to 4. Opponent plays out a Canopy, and on their end step, we'll Grudge the Esper Sentinel. We draw a Forest. We'll play out an Alpine Moon, naming Ink Moth, and attack in for lethal. Hey, let's go. Let's get into match 2. Match 2 looks like we have a normal Jund hand. We'll lead on Cliffs into a Ragavan, and our opponent is on a Mold of 4 this game. They go Pendlehaven into Shadow Spear. We draw an Obliterator for turn, attack in with Ragavan, finding a Hardened Scales, and we'll go Cliffs into a Liliana. We'll tick up and discard a Mire, and they discard a Ravager. Opponent plays a Murex into a Hangerback Walker. We top deck a Crime, we'll attack in with Rag, and they trade. We'll tick up with Lily, discarding a Crime, and they discard an Automaton. We'll fetch Shock out a Tomb, and run in 6 ping the Thopter. Next turn we can cast the Obliterator. Opponent plays land and passes. We find a Mire, we'll tick up, discard a Mire, tick up Ren, get a Mire back, then play out an Obliterator. Oh man, this is so sweet. Opponent plays a Jar out. Ooh, we draw a Witherbloom command. We'll destroy the Shadow Spear and drain them for 2. Tick up with Oli, tick up with Ren, and play out our land, and attack the opponent down to 11. Opponent plays out a Ballista for turn. We draw a Forest return. We'll tick up with Oli, attack in with Obliterator, then down tick on the Ballista with Ren. Oh, and I missed the Pendlehaven. Oof. And opponent scoops him up. Let's get on to sideboarding. We're gonna take out Wrench Mines and Lilies for Ancient Grudge, Alpine Moon, EE, and Crime Punishments. Game 2, our starter just doesn't have any red sources, so we get them all. Our 6 is much stronger. We'll put back a Mountain. Opponent leads on turn 1 Forest. We top deck a Grudge. We'll lead on Cliffs into a Ragavan. Opponent plays land into a Hangerback. Draw Witherbloom. We'll go Peatland and Witherbloom, killing the Walker and milling us for 3. And we'll pick up Blood Crypt over Besage, and we'll pass back. Opponent plays a Murex into a Ravager. We draw Blackleaf Cliffs. We'll play that. And we're going to play around Veil of Summer, so we're going to Ancient Grudge now, killing the Ravager. When it dies, they try and modular, and we'll just kill the Thopter as well. And attack in with Ragavan, exiling an Urza Saga and getting a treasure. Opponent shocks in its Tombing Ground and plays a Ballista on 2. Draw Verdant, we'll lead on attacking, and opponent pings down a Rag. We will Witherbloom command, killing Ballista and milling 3. And opponent pings us for 1 before we kill the Ballista. We'll pick up a Besage, Thoughtseize the opponent, and we'll take the Dismember, play a tapped Crypt, and pass back. Oh, and of note, we milled over a Grudge. Opponent top decked a Zabaz and 2 Nuzulith. And in our draw step, they Besage our Nurturing Peatland, and we'll pick up a Swamp. We'll play out Obliterator, and then fetch Shock in the Stomping Ground, play in Ragavan, and this way we can still hold up Besage. Opponent does nothing, passing back. We top deck a Torok, so we'll kick it out, and opponent discards a Patchwork. So cast a Grudge, killing Zabaz, and in response they make a Murex token, and they modular onto the Might. We attack in for 7, exiling a Zabaz, and we will cast that. Opponent plays a Canopy and draws immediately, and they scoop it up. Let's get on to match number 3. Match 3, we're on the play with a great hand. We'll fetch Shock for a Blood Crypt and cast a Ragavan. Opponent leads on turn 1 Balagid Sanctuary. Ooh, we top deck a Lily. We'll attack him with Ragavan, exiling a Charbelcher, Shock in an Overgrown Tomb, cast a Waste Knot, then Thoughtseize the opponent. And Blood Moon's the best card in the hand, so we gotta discard that. Drawing into a land. Opponent shocks in a Seagate, then cast a Manamorphose, making 2 red. Then they cast out their Ritual into a Valakut Awakening. We top deck a Blackleaf Cliffs. We'll attack him with Ragavan, exiling a Seagate, play a Blackleaf Cliffs into a Lily, and we'll tick up discarding a land. Opponent discards an Offer that we can't refuse. Ooh, we top deck a Raven's Crime. Let's cast that. And opponent sends ... Yes. They discard a Manamorphose and we'll draw another card, getting a Verdant. Opponent shocks in a Shatter Skull Smashing and passes. Top deck a land. We'll attack in with Ragavan, and they Spikefield Hazard it. We'll tick up with Lily, discarding a Swamp. They discard a non-creature. We draw, find another land, and then we will Raven's Crime them. And opponent scoops them up. Let's get into sideboarding. We're going to take out 4 Witherbloom commands for a Torok, 2 Ancient Grudge, and the Stonebrain. Game 2, we have the best card in the matchup, so we're keeping. Oh, opponent has a turn 1 Leyline and goes turn 1 Shatter Skull into a Strike at Rich. We top deck a Lily. We'll play a Tap Tomb. Oh, they have a Blood Moon. Pretty good start. Oh my god, we're so good at this game. So we'll play Forest and I guess cast out the Brain. Opponent plays a Ameria, scoops it up. They're so tilted. I don't think they realize that we can't name it with Leyline. Let's get into match 4. Match 4, our starter is amazing. Opponent leads on a turn 1 Triumph. Wrench Mine's a great draw. We'll fetch Shock and a Blood Crypt and go turn 1 Ragavan. Opponent plays Advantage into a Bone Crusher. We top deck a Peatland. We'll fetch Shock in a Tomb and play a Ren, picking up, getting a Verdant. Opponent plays an Agonjo into a Stoneforge, grabbing a Batterskull. Ooh, we top deck a Waste Knot. We'll tick up with Ren, getting a Verdant, play Waste Knot into a Raven's Crime. They discard a Chandra, so we get to draw a card. Find another Witherbloom. Opponent activates Stoneforge, putting in Cauldra. Oof. And they kill our Ren in 6. We draw a Verdant. We'll fetch out a Swamp and cast our Phyrexian Obliterator. This is actually great defense against Cauldra. Opponent plays a Mountain into a Chandra, ticks up, making 2 red mana, into a Chalice on 1. We top deck a Blackleaf Cliffs. We'll Witherbloom command, killing the Chalice and draining the opponent. And we'll Raven's Crime them, discarding a Blackleaf Cliffs. They discard Batterskull. We draw Thoughtseize, and we'll Raven's Crime again, getting rid of the Verdant. And they discard Solitude. We get a 2/2. We'll play a Peatland, and then we'll attack Chandra. If they block, they have to sacrifice 5 permanents. And they block with Stoneforge, doesn't make much sense. So now they sacrifice a permanent, and Chandra takes 2. And they sacrifice a Mountain. They tick up Chandra for mana and cast a Fury, killing our zombie. And attacks us for 5. Top deck another Thoughtseize. We'll cycle our Peatland, finding another Waste Knot. We'll cast a Witherbloom, draining them for 2 and milling us. Picking up a Peatland. Play that for turn and pass the opponent. Opponent ticks up, making 2 mana. Then cast out a Bone Crusher. We top deck a Torok, so we'll kick that out. An opponent has a Stomp, and nothing we can do other than pass. They tick up for mana and found a Solitude. They got us. Let's get into sideboarding. We're going to take out 2 Raven's Crime and a Wrench Mine for 2 Torpor Orb and a Torok. Game 2, our hand's a little too land heavy, so we got them all. Our 6 is much better. We'll put back a Triumph. We'll lead on turn 1 Swamp and 2 a Thoughtseize. And Fable's by far the best card, so we'll take that. Opponent leads on turn 1 Vantage. We draw an Obliterator. We'll fetch Shock for a Tomb and then cast a Witherbloom, draining them and milling us for 3. And we'll pick up a Blackleaf Cliffs. Opponent goes Plains into a Stoneforge, picking up a Line Sash. We top deck a Waste Knot. We'll play Lily and down tick the opponent. Opponent goes Plains into a Sash. Ren is an awkward draw because of the Sash, so we'll play Waste Knot, take up with Lily, and we'll discard our Ren. They discard a Wrath, so we draw a card. We'll fetch out a Swamp and cast a Torpor Orb. And on our end step, they activate Sash, making it a 2/2. Opponent shocks in a Foundry and plays Sarah Paragon. Oh god, that's so good. And they attack down our Lily. We find a Wrench Mine off the top, but we gotta cast Obliterator. Opponent goes Plains into a Fable out of their yard, and then Prismatic Endings our Waste Knot, and attacks us for 3. Lily's not a bad draw. We'll play that out and down tick. An opponent sacrifices the Shaman, and we have to attack in. Opponent doesn't use Fable and cast out a Batter Skull, attacking us for 3 and killing Lily. We top deck a land, we'll Wrench Mine the opponent. They discard a Fable and a Chandra, and we just can't win at this point. Sarah Paragon just beating us alone, so let's get into match number 5. Match 5, we're on the draw, and hand looks amazing. Opponent leads on a Heath, we'll go Cliffs into a Ragavan. And opponent has a Wrenn and 6, killing our Ragavan. And Lily's a great draw. We'll fetch Shock and a Tomb and cast out a Waste Knot. Opponent plays a Sacred Foundry and ticks up Wrenn. Ooh, and we find an Obliterator. We're gonna cast a Wrenn, tick up on a Verdant, and play that out for turn. And on our end step, they cast an Altamri's Call, getting a Risen Reef. Opponent plays out a Bloodstrand into an Oath, revealing an Omnath, Locus of Creation. They fetch Shock and play out a Reef, and then evoke out a Fury, pitching a Fury, triggering Reef as well. And they kill our Wrenn and 6. They tick up with Wrenn, getting a Bloodstrand. They pass, and we grab a Triumph. Ooh, we top deck another Waste Knot. I would love to be greedy, but we gotta play out this Torok. So we kick out the Torok, and they discard Omnath and a Windswept Heath. We get a 2/2 and 2 black mana. We'll cast out another Waste Knot and pass back to the opponent. Opponent ticks up with the Wrenn, playing out the lands, and then cast out a Solitude, triggering Reef and killing our zombie. We draw a land for turn. We'll play out a Lily and tick up, discard a Verdant, and opponent discards a Heath. We get 4 mana, so we'll cast out our Obliterator and attack Wrenn for 5, and Wrenn goes down. Then we'll play out our Verdant. Our board state's pretty crazy. Ooh, opponent has a Titania, which triggers Reef, and that's a pretty good play for them. And they fetch immediately, getting a 5/3, and that triggers Reef again. And they play another Floodstrand, getting another 5/3 and another Reef trigger. And then they have a Teferi, bouncing our Phyrexian Obliterator, and then evokes out a Fury, killing our Torok, and we are just so far behind, so we'll scoop it up and get into sideboarding. We're going to take out 3 Obliterator for Torok and 2 Torpor Orb. Game 2, our hand's just a little too weak, so we're going to mull. Our 6 is much stronger, we'll keep, and put back a Swamp. We'll lead on a Blood Crypt into a Thoughtseize, and we'll take their Wrenn. They shock in a Stomping Ground into an Oath, revealing it's a Teferi. We draw Raven's Crime, we'll fire that off. They discard Fury, and we'll play our Triumph. Opponent plays out another Oath, revealing a Windswept Heath, and we draw Witherbloom for turn. We'll fire it off, killing the Oath and milling us for 3. And we whiffed on the land, yikes. Opponent goes Plains into a Teferi. We find a Torpor Orb, so we'll run out Torok. Sadly, no land for us. Opponent downticks with Teferi, then picks up Kahira, plays a Heath and passes. We find a land, we'll attack Teferi for 2. Teferi goes down, and we'll play out an Orb into a tap Stomping Ground. Opponent plays out a Cavern into a Kahira, and then Prismatic Endings our Torpor Orb. Ooh, we find a Peat land off the top, so we'll fire off our Torok in hand, keeping our original. And opponent discards 2 Solitudes, and we'll attack in for 4. Opponent plays a tap Temple Guard and attacks in for 3. We find another Torok. We'll crack our Peat land, finding a Ragavan. We'll play out a Wrenn and tick up on the Peat land, and then attack in for 4. Opponent's down to 7. Oh, I think I just forgot to play my land too. Yikes. Opponent attacks Wrenn for 3. We'll Raven's Crime the opponent, discarding the Peat land. An opponent has a Veil. We'll dash out a Ragavan, attack the opponent. This is a forest block. We'll tick up on Peat land and play it for turn. See if they can beat this Torok. An opponent found a Omnath for turn, fetches out a forest, and then plays a Reef. So we'll kick out a Torok, down tick on the Reef, and attack in for lethal. Let's get into game 3. Game 3, our starter is again a little too slow, so we're gonna mull. And our 6 is much better. We'll put back a Lily. Opponent leads on a turn 1 Misty. We find a Mountain for turn. We're gonna lead on Cliffs into a Thoughtseize, and no Veil from the opponent, so we gotta take this Wrenn. Opponent goes Floodstrand and passes. We top deck a Crime. We'll cast that. Opponent discards an Island, and we'll play a Triumph. Opponent shocks in a Foundry and plays out a Risen Reef. We draw a Forest for turn. We'll go Forest into a Liliana, down ticking on the opponent. Opponent fetches a Plains and plays out a Risen Reef, putting up a Seiju onto the battlefield, and then they bolt our Lily. We draw a Foothills for turn. We'll play Wrenn, down tick on the opponent, then play out a Foothills. Opponent casts an Ending, killing our Wrenn, and passes back. We fetch out an Overgrown Tomb, and we top deck a Torok. We'll play a Waste Knot and Raven's Crime the opponent. This plays somewhat around Veil. Yep, and they had it. Opponent plays out an Oath, revealing an Omnath. They run out the Omnath and play a tap Steam Vince. So this Torok's gonna be amazing next turn. We top deck a Wrench Mine. We'll kick out Torok. An opponent discards Eldarmi's Call and a Prismatic Ending. And we get to draw 2 and make a 4/3. And then we'll play out the Peatland. Oh, an opponent top decks a Fury. So good. And down goes our Torok. And they attack us for down to 13. And we top deck a Thoughtseize. So we gotta crack our Peatland, find another Torok, and we'll run that out just so we can block Omnath. And they find a Resin Reef off the top. Oh my god, and they find a Rin as well. And we are just too far behind. Opponent got us, so we ended up 3-2. Oh, we did go 3-2 with the list. There were some obvious flaws. I don't think Obliterator is the best card in the format, and if you're gonna play Obliterator, the mana base just really didn't support it. There were a lot of weird games where we just couldn't cast the card. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this Waste Not video and seen Obliterator do some stuff. So please consider leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.